Honestly, I'm thinking after episode 8 of possibly The Greatest Alchemist, many people, even myself included to a degree, have underestimated where this show can go. Now, mind you, most of this is just speculation off of what this episode gave me, but given that they're focusing a lot more on the modern day stuff, as we do have two perspectives, right? Our show in question is basically set in the past, some odd amount of time before the present day stuff, and the present day is showing a kingdom that's very clearly up to no good. And all the summoned heroes, they're dealing with a kingdom where slavery seems like slavery, not the job search like it is for Takami's side. And there's just a lot of mysterious and devious behavior at play. And I think those who have wrote off this show as your run-of-the-mill generic Isekai are in for a rude awakening. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not saying this is going to turn the show into a masterpiece, but I actually think they're building into something fairly interesting. And where my thoughts are currently, which, like I said, could be completely mistaken because it's all speculation, but I almost wonder if, because what usually happens in these shows is we summon a group of heroes or a hero to fight some big evil, right? Whether that's a war in question, demons, whatever it is, right? I almost wonder if, because we know our boy Takami ends up developing so much stuff in his kingdom, and clearly this other kingdom is not happy with them not being, doing as well, I almost wonder if they use isekai kind of summons, not because they're fighting a great evil, but because of greed, that you summon them and use them as weapons in order to progress your own greedy ideals. And if that's the case, we could be building into a very interesting conflict of really good versus evil, but these, isekai characters really having no idea that maybe they're being exploited other than the one, because there's been some suspicion there. I'm not sure exactly where they're going, but they're focusing a lot more on the present day stuff than I would expect if this show was only going to be actually 12 episodes and they say, see you later. Because I've seen a lot of shows where they do adapt the source material and they cut out a lot of this type of POVs because, well, it's only renewed for one season, so we're just going to give you a fun little easy to digest isekai. This almost feels like we're probably getting a season 2, and season 2 is going to look a lot different than what we got for the most part in season 1. Now, before we jump any further, gotta mention, we got the full live reactions. If you want to support my work, see my full thoughts on these episodes, we got them exclusively over on Patreon if you're so interested. So, they do end the episode a little spicy. Our boy Takami and the gang, they end up going back home, get jumped, everyone's getting knocked out, other than, of course, our boy and his spider pal Maple, because they are pretty much immune to poisons and the like. And he, it's not too bad, we just send them away. But it feels like more and more we're building into him not having that casual, leisurely life. We're building into more action being taken against him because people are starting to recognize how talented he is. And if you're not using that talent for us, well, we're going to probably whack your ass. And, this episode was all kind of about forming an official party. We had the Wings of Nolan, which, of course, Nolan being the goddess, the wings kind of representing their freedom and taking flight sort of a thing. It's a pretty good name. Unfortunately, it took him a bit to get there, and unfortunately for his body, that meant getting an absolute beatdown. I think one of the funniest jokes is the fact that Sophia was ready to actually kill this man for even laying a single finger on her boy, and as soon as he sees how pathetic he is at fighting, she was right there being like, you need to fight better. And I'm like, wow, we went from she was going to kill a bitch to actually maybe you need to get your ass beat a little bit to learn how to fight. I'm like, okay then, don't piss her off. It was actually a really good episode. I'd probably argue it was in the top 3 of the episodes, and pretty early into the episode because of how quickly they showed us the future POV, or I guess I should say the present POV. I was like, oh, it almost feels like before the season's over, maybe like in episode 11, we're going to get mostly a episode focused probably on their point of view, and it's really going to build into a cliffhanger ending for the season. And they're just giving more and more throughout this episode, and I feel like they're really trying to bring these two points of views together to overlap, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slice if we do get a season 2, if there's no longer a time discrepancy, but rather they're at the exact same points. And that actually has me really excited because while I'm not saying the future stuff or the present stuff, whatever you want to say, is the best content, I do think the legitimate just slice of life, what they've been doing as a party and stuff is actually really engaging. There's a lot of mystery surrounding there, and I think the idea of a man who's in a kingdom so clearly different than the kingdom that's going to oppose him and, the king that he's supporting. You have this king who's in a kingdom where slavery is treated more like a job market and people are, they have healthy contracts. You have just a genuinely nice king who you want to support, and the queen bitch and everyone else at that other side looks to be like the most menacing thing, yet they're the ones seemingly summoning people, and if it wasn't for Nolan stepping in, I mean, our boy probably would have ended up over there too. And I'm interested to see, what's ultimately at play and where they want to go, because I don't think these characters were summoned because of insert demon lord evil. Now, maybe that will pop up still, but it almost feels like they're using what is normally a tool to protect the world as a tool for conquest. And I think that would actually help differentiate and separate this show from your run-of-the-mill summons. Hell, even in this episode, while it's not deep, I'm not going to say it's like, oh my god, this, no, but it's better than surface level, and that does deserve a little bit of praise. Our boy actually reflects in this episode about the fact that he comes from another world. The fact that, yeah, I'm kind of getting a little homesick, and, you know, certain foods and the like that he wants to eat and try does remind him of home. And of course, you know, there's certain characters like a Sophia and stuff that maybe help let him appreciate the current day. But at the end of the day, like, he is reflecting on the fact. And a lot of these shows, they just send a new character to a world and they say, screw my old life. And it's like, was your life really that bad that you really forget about it that quick? Like, sure, once in a while, maybe that happens to these characters, but it shouldn't be the common occurrence. So I appreciate that they're going that direction. It's interesting because if you actually look at most of our boy's POV this episode, he had some ridiculous faces. He had meme faces for days. Yet, this was actually one of the most serious episodes we've had in this show, and I'm really interested what that means, because this is a character who really has been on cruise control, really hasn't had to look over his shoulder, and sure, he dealt with the threat at play very easily in this episode, but the fact that they're coming to his home now, it's only going to get worse. Like, I don't think season 1's going to end with him not having to look over his shoulder. No, I think wars are brewing, I think invasions are going to happen, and it's going to be very, very interesting how far this other side's going to go to either kidnap him and take them for himself so that he'll make them these items, or if they're going to just straight up try to burn this kingdom to the ground. I do think we're building into something that extreme. Whether or not we see much of that at the end of this season or the beginning of the next season, only time will tell. But it's very clear that I think people who wrote off this show as generic harem fantasy bullshit are sadly mistaken. The girl we recruited last week feels more little sistery. I mean, just that scene with like, hey, like, do you guys want me to pay you more? I'm an elf, I'm gonna outlive you, like, I'll just guard your grave for life. Maria being like, as if I live a day longer than you, I can be buried next to you. Like, those two have like a really cute dynamic, but I appreciate that the show's more than just generic harem self-insert fantasy. Like, they're actually doing a pretty good job with Takumi as a character, and I like it. Of course, those are my feelings, though. Let me know what you're thinking down below. What do you think of my theories? You got your own if you don't know the source material, of course. I think there's a lot to explore and speculate on, so I'd love to hear what everyone's thoughts are. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Tokyo, Adam Johnson, Sky Crown, JD, FL Fax, Match, Mate, Danbro77, and we also have Carl Stefan Berndal. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you'll have a good one.